What excuses are you making not to take care of you? It's really important to take a step back and be like, there's really no excuse. You were able to find the time for things that mattered to you when you didn't have kids. You can find the time now. If you think something's really important, you're going to figure it out. You'll find time in the early morning hours, or you'll find time late at night, and you'll figure it out because you'll realize that it's important for you and everybody's well-being. Welcome to the Black Belt Parenting Podcast. My name's Sacoulas, and today we're going to be discussing you. And I think this is a really important episode, and it's going to be like a recurring theme when we're doing the podcasting, because essentially parenting comes down to you and who you're being in the situation. And so I feel like this is a really important part of the podcasting episodes, because when we're discussing parenting, the most important part of it is you and your relationship with your children, but also you and your relationship with yourself. In the first phase of martial arts training, we always focus on the self. So when people come into the school and they're trying out the school, we're looking at who they are. And then the first part of their training, we're really focusing on the development of the self. So we have different phases here at the school. We have our phase 1, we have our phase 2, and then we have our phase 3. And so in the phase 1 part of the training, we're really looking at developing the self. And it's so much the most important of establishing like the basics of the foundation of your training and your learning. In comparison to parenting, right, this is the most important part of development. And if you're not developing the self, there's no way you can grow and become a better parent. I remember bringing my first daughter home from the hospital and, having my first night of sleep. I was in like the exhilaration part of having the child and being like, oh my gosh, I'm a mom. But I remember the morning that I woke up having the realization that there's this being outside of me that I'm responsible for. For the 34 years prior to that, it had just been about me. Yeah, I got married, but I was married to somebody who was their whole self already, who was responsible for themselves, and if I was gone, could take care of themselves. This was the first time I realized I was responsible for this creature that was wholly dependent upon me. And it was super scary, and I really felt for the first time upon waking up that morning the weight of that, and it was daunting, and I really understood that parenting at this point was for the rest of my life, right? And yes, there's a lot of joy that comes with it. And I feel like, the pictures that people paint of it are so much that, it's like, it's fun and it's family, and so you're supposed to feel a certain way, and you feel like you're supposed to feel a certain way. And nobody really tells you the fear and the weight of the responsibility that you automatically get when you become a parent. No matter if you have bringing home a newborn or you're bringing home a child that ultimately becomes your responsibility, that weight is really daunting, and almost automatically in that moment, you shove yourself to the side and this creature becomes the focus of your life. That part of you becomes really like secondary. And I think it's natural, right? I feel like that's what's supposed to happen. But I think as parents, sometimes we take it to the extreme and then we disregard and put ourselves to the side. And it's a mistake, because ultimately you cannot be a good parent if you're not taking care of yourself. Similarly, in the martial arts, like you can't be a good training partner and you can't be a good competitor if that's your goal, right? If you're not working on yourself consistently. I think it became really important. Like the first couple of years of my kids' lives, I feel like I was sort of like an empty vessel, and I was just doing tasks to make sure that my kids were okay. And in some of that, I lost some of myself, right? So I think it's really important that the focus of you become a really big conversation in establishing, a good base for becoming a good parent, because you are the role model for your child. And so even now, I'm discovering that whatever I do for myself in terms of taking care of myself becomes a model for what my kids are doing. More so now because they're even more conscious of it. But back when they were infants, it was more of they could feel it. They could feel when I was stressful. It would impact their mood. And I didn't realize it at the time. I mean, hindsight is very clear. But in my most stressful moments, my child was the most fussy, right? So it's almost like in the basic instinct part of parenting, you don't realize the impact of who you're being and the impact of the emotional state that you're in for your child. It becomes more apparent as you get older. In the martial arts as an instructor, when I'm dealing with the beginning of the training, and my husband really made this clear to me, is the development of self-awareness in the martial arts when you're doing the basics of your training is key in you becoming a really great martial artist. Your inability to be aware of who you're being throughout your training really lends to becoming a better training partner and ultimately becoming a better martial artist. So the first phase of martial arts training is wholly focused on you developing skills so that you can become a better training partner. And I actually asked my husband this question of what if somebody goes into martial arts and there's some schools, they immediately throw you into the ring and you're just fighting, and you're working on basic instincts. What becomes apparent is that you don't have basics, and almost immediately the flaws and what's missing from your basics, or what's missing from your arsenal, or what's missing from your own self-awareness becomes wholly apparent when you're with a training partner or when you're sparring. Everything gets shown. Almost all of the holes in your game get exposed because you have not worked on those basics. So the first phase of your training is it's imperative, right? And I think people think they just want to jump into it. They see it and they just want to go into it, and they think they know because they've seen it on videos or they've seen it on a UFC fight, and they don't realize the amount of time it took to get in that ring, or the amount of time and practice and training and learning it took to get to that point, And so the basics, people want to rush through it, but it's really the most important part of your training. And at the same time, has to be returned to continuously. I have a lot of kids in my classes, it takes a long time to get a black belt at progressive martial arts. At a lot of schools, I see kids getting their black belts at 5 and 6 years old, and I don't understand it because the black belt process is a journey. I have kids as young as 6 and 7. They'll be I know this already. We've done this already. We've done this so many times. It could be a jab cross, But mastery takes so many repetitions. I mean, I think they say 10,000 repetitions gives you some sort of mastery of the basics, right? Even as you're training, right? Things evolve. Your body changes. Your level of understanding changes. Even the outside world might change. So your approach to that one technique, that one jab cross could alter in a span of maybe months, So going back to it and going back to doing it becomes really important. And also having the humility to say, I've learned this, but I think there's more to learn in this process. And so to become a really great martial artist takes that level of thinking and that level of humility and that level of understanding. And so to compare that to parenting, I think it's really important as parents that we always go back and look at, we might think we know, but it's important that we go back and, maybe it's good to think about it again or talk to somebody about it again, because it'll show up in conflict with your kids or in a lesson that you're continually having to face with your children. It's really comparable in that way. You know, the time that you think you know how to parent is the time your kid's going to confront you with a situation where you're like, I thought we did this already, you know? And then all of a sudden you don't know. You don't know. And then another child of yours is going to come, same type of situation, but approaching it completely differently. You thought you figured it out, but you really didn't. That's happened to me so many times, you know, where I think I got it right with my first child. And then my second child comes, totally different personality. And now I have to think about a different way to approach it. Same way as if I'm on the training floor and I'm approached by one type of competitor, you know, I'm with one sparring partner. They're hitting me a certain way with the same techniques, right? But then another person comes along and it's the same technique, but their approach is different. Their footwork's different. Their speed is different. They're taller, you know? It's so comparable in that way. And it exposes your weaknesses. And so you always have to be adaptable to that change, right? So it's really important that as parents, we're constantly trying to grow, because without growth, you're really not learning and you're stagnant. And so there's some really big reasons as to why you have to focus on you. I have some parents here who brought their kids just for martial arts for their kids. And so many times I'm sitting in my office and they're like, I'm like, what about you? You know, because I don't limit martial arts to just kids, right? I think it's important for everybody. I wouldn't be doing this job if I thought that it was just limited to you have to start at, 3 years old. No way. You know, personally, I started at 27 years old. You know, I thought that was old. But I've had parents come and sit with me and they'll be like, I have no time for this. You know, my focus is my kids. I have to take care of them, you know, and I look at them and I go, well, I think that you doing it is actually going to be encouraging for your kids. I think that you personally taking part in martial arts is going to role model for your kids exactly why they should be doing the martial arts. Right now in my adult program, I think I have about, I want to say like over 10 parents in the program who started after their kids did martial arts because they saw the benefits of the martial arts. And you know what happens with that is that the kids see that it's something that they have to do to make their lives better. And it creates a bonding opportunity for them and their parents where they become closer, wholly because their parents are role modeling exactly what they want their kids to get out of the martial arts. And they see the positive effects that the martial arts can have. Aside from martial arts, you know, I even have parents in here whose kids have already attained black belt and they've continued their training and their kids are far away from the school because they're in college or they're doing their thing and the parents have stayed, you know, so it shows like, you know, when you focus on you, it becomes a really big part of your kid's success, right? So just a couple of points there. And I said it earlier, your state of being matters, both physically and emotionally, right? Firstly, right, you can't do for anybody else if you're unhealthy. So if mentally and emotionally and physically you're unhealthy, there's no way that you can take care of other people. I've been in a state of, and I feel like as I've gotten older, like as a parent, like I've taken care of everybody. And because I was a nurse and because I'm a teacher, I'm always like in service. And I'm the worst at service when I'm unhealthy and I'm overwhelmed and I'm stressed. And everybody can see it. No matter how I try and hide it, it's written all over my aura. And it becomes contagious, right? I can never be of service to other people if I'm physically overwhelmed, I'm unhealthy, and I can't do anything. That in and of itself should be motivation for anybody, right? If I want to do my job better, I want to be a better parent, I really have to take care of myself. I have a parent here who joined with his kids, and now he's an assistant on the training floor, but he lost close to, I feel like 30 pounds over his time here. And he looks significantly different. You know, he's happier, he's healthier, he's got color, you know, like there's just a different aura about him. And the way he is just more joyous. He's in his 50s. And I feel like, you know, there's people younger than him who look less healthier than him, but he finds the time to get here and it's changed his life, not just physically, but in all areas. So, you know, your state of being really matters, right? So taking care of your health, right? Finding time for yourself. And the excuses that you make are all excuses, and you're going to use your kid as an excuse. Because 99% of the time, parents are telling me, like, I don't have money and I don't have time to do anything for myself because I'm doing it all for my children. But that's a choice, right? And instead of using your kids as an excuse, I challenge you to use your kids as a motivator instead. Use your kids as the reason why you're taking care of yourself, not the reason why you're not taking care of yourself. That shift is really important because then you're doing things for yourself, for other people as well. And that can be such a great motivator. You know, like I want my kids to have me around for a long time. I want my kids to be around a mom who is stress-free and who is physically fit and emotionally fit. You know, I want a mom who I want to be around and who I can do things with. You know, oftentimes I'll see parents at events where we're like, come on the training floor. And the moms and dads are like, no, it's okay. That's for them. You know, you're still allowed to play and you're still allowed to have fun and you're still allowed to engage. Don't disengage, right? Get involved. You know, I recently did a Nerf Wars at this school, and I think like in the last couple of years, I just stood on the side and I didn't do it. This year, I'm getting in there and I'm picking up a Nerf gun and I'm playing, and I see the kids get so excited and I'm excited, you know? So it says a lot about your participation and their desire for you to participate too, right? So think about that, right? Think about your engagement just physically, emotionally, and mentally, and what excuses are you making not to take care of you? You know, it's really important to take a step back and be like, there's really no excuse. You were able to find the time for things that mattered to you when you didn't have kids. You can find the time now. If you think something's really important, you're going to figure it out. You'll find time in the early morning hours, or you'll find time late at night, and you'll figure it out because you'll realize that it's important for you and everybody's well-being. The second thing, and I think I touched upon it with the first thing, right, is your kids will do as you do, right? No matter what you say, right? The most important thing that they are looking at is what you do, right? I can tell my kids all day to eat healthy, but if they see me snacking on junk food and not eating well, right? They're just gonna be like, well, if she can do it, I can do it too. And they pay more attention to that stuff than they do your words, right? You can nag them all day, but it really is about what you're doing. I think for me, it's always been my goal to be a good role model because of the martial arts. My role models are my husband, obviously, because he's been doing this a really long time, and I see his discipline and his integrity with the martial arts, and that's always been something for me to look up to. But also our instructors, so like Guru and Asano, he's reaching, I feel like 86, 87 years old. He's still training every day, as flexible every day, working every day. And that, as an instructor, is my model too. You know, like I want to have that longevity. I want to be able to teach and still be a learner. Like he's still a learner. He talks about his teachers all the time. And I admire that so much. It's very inspirational, you know, to find something that you're passionate about and continue to learn every day is something that inspires me and pushes me, right? So I think for my kids, like I have to be that for them too. Life doesn't end when you have kids, right? You can still pursue your dreams and do the things that you want to do and have goals and learn about yourself and figure things out. And it encourages them to not be afraid and to continue to pursue and have passions, right? So be a model for your kids and live your life to your best, right? Potential. Don't stop because you have kids, because now you think you could just do things through them, right? Do things for yourself and model what you want them to be like, right? To be a hard worker and to be passionate and to live vivaciously. So that modeling part and doing what you aspire is really important. It's easy to lose your passion because you're bogged down in what you have to take care of and what you have to do. But you have to also create a path for yourself. So life is still exciting and life is still something that makes you really passionate. The third thing that is really important in creating a good role model, but also why you are important, is because you want to build resiliency in yourself and in your child. You're not as flexible and resilient if you're in a poor mental state or if you're in a poor physical state. So resiliency is only built through creating a good foundation for yourself to face challenges and obstacles. And it's funny because we talk about resiliency in the classroom and how do we get it? First of all, you have to develop yourself so that I always tell kids, like, you're 10 feet tall and bulletproof, right? How do you get there? By actually putting yourself up against challenges and obstacles all the time. Life is a challenge and an obstacle, right? But are you being the best possible you in the face of them? As you get older, right, your problems just get bigger. But you have to consistently face your challenges and face your fears in order to become resilient to those things and show your kids that you can get through anything if you have this mindset of resiliency. If you have this mindset of, like, bring it on. I can face my challenges and I can do better, right? So you're only as good as the person that you're continually growing to be, right? So if you're not challenging yourself and you're not putting yourself up against any fears and you're not setting goals for yourself, you're not creating resiliency in who you are. So on the training floor, we gain resiliency by consistent training, by sparring drills, adding new techniques to the curriculum, developing brain cells, developing pathways so that you're constantly growing and that you're able to face more and more. It's great on the training floor. Every time you get on there, there's something new to learn. No matter how many classes you take, there's always something there, and it's crazy and it's wonderful, right? And I think that's why people continue on with the martial arts. Like, you can go to the gym every day and lift the same 10 pounds and yeah, you might get something from it, but it's crazy how you go onto the training floor, you have a different instructor, you have the same instructor, you're learning the same technique, but there's something new that comes out of it. And so that's the thing about learning and gaining resiliency, is you're constantly developing ways to be better. And so in that vein, right, you're not only getting better, like, physically, right, you're getting better mentally and emotionally. And I think it's just really important too, like, in the development of you, that you're also asking for help, right? So you being the best you possible requires you being able to expose your vulnerabilities and say to others, I need help sometimes. And then also to express to them, like, anything that's going on that you're having trouble with. Really, the relationships that you have as you are a parent become vital in who your kids are going to be. Firstly, they see the relationships that you have, and that whole role modeling thing really takes effect. When my kids hit elementary school, I became pressured to become a Girl Scout troop leader. And I was like, you know what? When I took it on, I released the pressure part of it, but it became a really important thing because I became part of their community and I developed relationships with their friends' parents. I developed relationships with their peers. I developed relationships with their with the school that they're in, those relationships became key in who my kids became friends with, and also in the support system that I developed as a parent. So when you're developing strong relationships that support who you are and who you want to be, you can only have a better support system and become a better you. The relationships that you have personally, so like with your parents or with your partner, those are really key, right? Because those are your foundation. They're there to support you too, right? And the more support you feel, the better you feel grounded in who you are and who you can be as a mom or a dad. I always emphasize that too. I'm not who I am without the people who are closest to me, because with them I share my experiences. I can bounce things off of them, and it's not limited just to those people who are closest to me. It is also the people that I see day to day. I want to be close to others, and I want to develop a community so that we can help each other with our children. And that's part of the reason why my husband and I started progressive martial arts. And I talk about this a lot, is I got my master's in public health because I wanted to create a place of wellness eventually. That was always my dream, to always have like a community center, but a wellness community center. And it just happens to be I met this person and he was doing martial arts. And I realized that martial arts isn't kicking and punching, really. It's about developing a lifestyle of wellness, mind, body, and soul. I'm doing actually what I dreamed of doing all the time. I just didn't know that I was going about it the way that I was going about it. And so the relationships that we develop here at Progressive Martial Arts is this community of people that just want to be positive and live to their fullest potential. So the communities that you're in really help support you. And if you're not in a positive community, go find one, right? It's so easy to be isolated and live in a comfortable, isolated bubble. You don't get to reap the benefits of being around people that can help you feel better and who can help you do things with your kids. You know, I've always been a really independent person, and when I had kids and there was like the concept of carpooling and, you know, hey, I'll take your kid here, and like, wow, you're going to do that for me, and then I'll do that in turn for you. It's a gift, you know, and if you don't take advantage of it and you don't accept help, like, you don't get to feel the love, and you don't get to feel the support, and you don't get to feel the camaraderie of being a parent, because parenting is a community. So if you don't participate in it, you're not really reaping the benefits, and your kid is not reaping the benefits of it too, because they get to see that life is only fuller when you're around other people. Going back to, right, taking care of you, I hope I'm hitting it hard, because for me, I always constantly have to remind myself of it, because I forget myself in the process of parenting. And you're the most important part of parenting. And so I have to be reminded of it all the time, because it mirrors itself in your kids. When my kids are stressed out, okay, it's not always because of me, right? But sometimes I have that effect on them, and they see how I'm handling my stress, and then they mirror that. So it's like any relationship, right? And like we talked about earlier, all of the holes in your game, like when you're sparring or when you're doing any type of drills, right, get exposed when you're with somebody. Your kids are that person for you. They will show you where you're lacking, because in a relationship with you, it will all come out, right? So if you're not constantly working on you or being the best you or taking care of you, and that's not you trying to be the best image of what a mom should be or what a dad should be, right? It's actually being the best you could be, right? Who do you want to be, right? Always looking at, am I doing the things that I love to do? Am I happy? Am I fulfilled, right? What is that going to take? And so asking that question of yourself is really important, because if you don't, it's going to leak out into the other areas of your life, and most especially into your children. This is where you is a constant conversation, and you always have to focus on it. Whether you're sitting down and journaling about it, or you're talking to someone about it, friends, therapy, whatever it takes, right? It's really important that you are taking the time and making it priority to take care of you. Thank you for joining me on the Black Belt Parenting Podcast. For next time, please send me a message on how your child motivated you this week to do something that you love to do. For more information on this podcast, please log on to blackbeltparentingpodcast.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe to whatever social media platform you are enjoying this on. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Stay resilient, stay compassionate, and always strive to be the best version of yourself. The Black Belt Parenting Podcast is produced and recorded by Press Record Studios.